Good evening. Welcome to our Tuesday, October 22nd, 2024 Municipal Council. I'd like to call this meeting to order at this time and ask if there's any declarations. Good evening and welcome to the council meeting for the October 22nd. Are there any declarations of interest from members of council at this time? Can you do it? There we are. Item C of our agenda is land acknowledgement statement. The town of East Gwillimbury recognizes and acknowledges the lands originally used and occupied by the First Peoples of the Williams Treaty First Nations and other Indigenous peoples, and on behalf of council, I thank them for sharing this land. We also acknowledge the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation and as East Gwillimbury's closest First Nation community, and recognize the unique relationship the Chippewas have with the lands and the waters of these territories. They are the water protectors and environmental stewards of these lands, and we join them in these responsibilities. Deputations tonight. We have several deputations scheduled for this evening. I'd like to remind all deputants that you each have 5 minutes on the agenda to speak. I also want to remind everyone in attendance that we recognize some individuals may be passionate about the issues. However, we ask that you remain courteous and respectful during the meeting. Outbursts, cheering, and clapping will not be tolerated. Thank you very much. And with that, I will now go through the list of deputants listed on our prepared agenda for today. Ms. M. Goldsworthy, making a deputation to council regarding Item I.1 Parks, Recreation and Culture Report.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the deputant is actually joining us remotely, and we have them available online right now. Mark, please go right ahead.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor and members of council. I wasn't expecting to jump right into things, but happy to get started here. So thank you everybody in attendance today. I'll keep this short and sweet. My name is Mark Goldsworthy. I live in River Drive Park. I am a member of the EG Environmental Advisory Committee, and I've been supporting the town's efforts to help establish a private tree bylaw, and that's why I'm here today to speak. I am a concerned resident, and I'm in support of the private tree bylaw. Just some brief background. My spouse and I moved to East Gwillimbury in 2019, and we were very lucky to find a place to live that was with a well-treed backyard. And while we love our house that we currently live in, what really caught our attention was the large, mature native red oak in the backyard. And there are many mature red and white oaks and other trees in the neighborhood. Preserving this natural heritage is what brings me here today. I believe that tree bylaws work, that they are effective, and they help to preserve and enhance our healthy communities. As an arborist myself, I do advocate for trees, and I believe regulation is really key. Municipalities all across the GTA and Ontario already have effective tree bylaws in place, and they help to prevent unnecessary tree removal. They protect trees on construction sites, for instance, and they provide educational opportunities for residents to learn more about proper tree care and maintenance. Municipalities have bylaws in place for many things on private property already, even weeds, and adding trees to the list really isn't that far of a stretch as one might think. The many benefits trees do provide, from things like reducing greenhouse gases, stormwater management, providing wildlife habitat, enhancing our neighborhood and aesthetics, and a lot more, are presently undervalued and not always accounted for when considering the environment, sustainability, and municipal services. As you all know, we are in a climate crisis as declared by East Gwillimbury, and immediate action is required from all levels of government and society right now. Implementing a local private tree bylaw is but one piece of that puzzle. In order to mitigate the impacts of climate change, trees within our community do have a very vital role to play. The water they absorb doesn't stop at the property line, the air they clean drifts to your neighbors, and the animals who rely on them come from far and wide. The point is, they are community players and provide numerous benefits that extend beyond imaginary lines. I commend the town's efforts to draft this bylaw and understand firsthand the challenges in implementing it. East Gwillimbury is diverse, from our farms to our industrial sector to our single-family homes and apartments. There's a lot of unique challenges currently being faced. And one thing for certain is that EG is really poised to be one of the fastest growing communities in Canada. And with that, I think comes a lot of developmental pressures. A tree bylaw represents the now, and it helps to plan ahead for the future. It really does allow for responsible land stewardship, whether it be during construction, normal farming practice, or use of trees for firewood. And I think that this bylaw strikes a really good balance between property rights and community benefits. It provides a map to the future for planning and preservation and can be a bridge to better governments at a local level. East Gwillimbury has presented a comprehensive bylaw that reflects the town and its current goals. It also allows for tree removal up to 3 and to a certain size, and regulates 20-centimeter diameter at breast height trees and greater. Evidence supports that trees of this size are generally mature status. That is, they provide the most benefit. And as trees mature, their benefits do become exponentially increasing in what they provide to our environment. In addition, this bylaw does not restrict, and I want to repeat that, it does not restrict a private landowner to develop or build, but encourages mature tree preservation. It helps to avoid injury. It mitigates issues on site for construction, for instance. And there are already many industry standards in many communities all across the GTA and Ontario that can benefit from these types of bylaws and are showing that's the case. Better preservation during construction, for instance, helps to maintain existing canopy and is a public safety matter. The bylaw ensures that trees can also be planted for the future. For the farming community, there is room in this bylaw to allow for normal farming practices. It provides opportunity to continue growing, and it encourages stewardship of hedgerows, for example. I do really strongly encourage all residents of East Gwillimbury to consider the predicament we're in as the planet heats up. Today it was 26 Celsius, and while no one day is typically an indicator of global warming, it is a temperature trend we are all experiencing as the climate changes. I'm reminded of the proverb that goes a little something like this: the true meaning of life is to plant trees, under whose shade you do not expect to sit. I want to thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council, and residents of East Gwillimbury. Please pass the private tree bylaw. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Well said. Appreciate it very much. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Crothers, Councillor Foster? All those in favor? That's carried. I know we have another person that is going to present to us this evening. Jay Coates making a deputation to council regarding Item I.1 Parks, Recreation and Culture Report Draft Tree Protection Bylaw Update. Welcome. Good to have you with us tonight.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. Sorry for my appearance, but I wanted to be here in person, so I drove a sprayer here from the field. This fall has been beautiful, as we all know, and it's been hard to take time from harvest to meet with staff to discuss the bylaw, but we've been doing it and had 2 successful meetings since our last meeting of council in regards to the bylaw. I think we've made progress in the bylaw in regards to agriculture, but there's still progress to be made, and staff is working on that. We've seen changes to private property access. We've seen a simplified method for farmers to record cutting trees for field access. We've seen expanded tree cutting exemptions based on acreage, and opportunity for farmers to compensate through tree planting on town property differently than the situation for the general public. I wanted to come here to clarify the terminology of normal farm practices. I think that's something that's been somewhat confused and confusing, as even in the town staff report, good farming practices was mentioned rather than normal farm practices in part of it. Normal farm practices isn't just a buzzword. It comes directly from the Farming and Food Production Protection Act and is protected by the Normal Farm Practices Protection Board. It's part of a provincial act that works to limit. The act protects farmers from disturbance complaints provided the farmer is following normal farm practices. Disturbances covered are for those arising from odor, dust, flies, light, smoke, noise, and vibration. The act also protects farmers from municipal bylaws that restrict their normal farm practices. Municipal bylaws under the act, if a farmer is concerned that a municipal bylaw is restricting a normal farm practice that is carried on as part of an agricultural operation, the farmer may apply to the Normal Farm Practices Protection Board for an order that the bylaw would not apply at that location. This act does not give farmers the right to pollute the natural environment or to contravene the Environmental Protections Act, the Pesticides Act, the Health and Protection and Promotion Act, or the Ontario Water Resources Act. The Normal Farm Practices Protection Board works for both the municipality and the farmer. The municipalities can access their expertise in resolving disputes in regards to what might be a normal farm practice. As I reviewed other tree bylaws that were cited in the original draft, there's a clear trend of exempting normal farm practices. In part, that's to be consistent with provincial regulation and to limit the potential hearings that would go to the Normal Farm Practices Board. So normal farm practices isn't a free-for-all for farmers. There already is a method in place for dealing with issues regarding normal farm practices. So it seems unnecessary to restrict that again in a municipal bylaw. Part of what we see as a definition in the report is that this bylaw doesn't really consider creation of new farmland. Creation of new farmland is more clearing of woodlots and woodlands, which is under the regional bylaw. We're more considerate of clearing fence rows, which are existing agricultural infrastructure, which were created by lack of management and maintenance of existing fences that were put in place years ago. I just want to be clear that about what normal farm practices are from the province and how that should be applied in the bylaw. And I look forward to improving the application as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Roy DiClemente.
I just wanted to thank our deputant for taking the time out of his very busy schedule to engage in this process, and I wanted to acknowledge that his correspondence was thoughtful, well considered, and informed, and it certainly helped me frame my understanding of the issue, and so I just wanted to acknowledge that and thank him for that. Thank you.
Thank
and
you.
I'm happy to move it.
Thank you. Councillor Crone. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. I believe our next presenter is P. Varvaro, making our deputation regarding Parks, Recreation, Culture Report. Welcome. Good to have you with us this evening.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Paula Varvaro, and I'm an over 20-year resident of East Gwillimbury. I have very grave concerns, and actually 5 minutes is not going to give me enough time to contradict and counter what was said in the very first deputation, for which I take much issue. And actually, I would ask that the council strike it from being accepted, as I believe that would be a conflict of interest. I'd be concerned and have that looked into, as he is an arborist, and he stands to benefit from this bylaw, as residents under this bylaw will need arborists to make reports, to get permits. I would also like to say that in terms of climate crisis, I asked this town several years ago, to which I received no reply, who on this council has the scientific acumen to make such an assertion? I would like an answer in writing publicly. Who has that acumen? Because I don't believe you have any staff, and even if you did, it is not a universal international consensus. At any rate, what you're trying to do, according to Lambton Council years ago, is either illegal or immoral. That's what they decided, and they did not pass a tree bylaw. Chatham-Kent did the same. Dufferin County, in turn, did the same. And why? Elizabeth Marshall intelligently put together a report for which I won't be able to present this evening, but I would like to further have discussions, and I look forward to engaging in conversation on these matters. That in this report, it showed violations of the Municipal Act, Forestry Act, Canadian Constitution, British North American Act, Crown Patents, or patent, sorry, I'm going to mess up the wording. I think you understand what I'm getting at. Land patents from the Crown into consideration. It's also common law rights that are of concern as well. It is also, from my understanding, regulatory expropriation without compensation. This town was able last week to send me a nice postcard about senior living and our thoughts. I would think when you have land, agricultural land, worth over $10 million going in this town, and the average landowner that owns acreage is in the $2 to $3 million range, I would be very interested to know what's going on with not only my trees, my shrubs. It's a bit of a misnomer to say it's only trees because it includes shrubs. As far as why you approve this in principle, I still have very deep concerns and deep questions, because Tara Roy DiClemente voiced that she's for 14 years been a great advocate of this. So what are the facts around this? Because Mr. Crone made mention that this doesn't address the developers who are really the ones they're after. Or perhaps I misunderstood your words, and if I did, then perhaps you could clarify, because that was how I interpreted that. If we're going after landowners, already in this province, developers are not, they've given way and are not paying the development fees they once were, and these are very high fines with absolutely no discretion as to what 250 signals to anybody, if this were ever to go to some judicial level to be disputed. What's a $250 fine? What's a $50,000? When you go to tier 2, you're 50 to, and up, and then you're going all the way up to $100,000 with absolutely no guidance on that. That's also a huge concern, even if you were going to make any bylaw, regardless of a tree bylaw. I also wonder, the gentleman who spoke first, if he owns a subdivision home that he is casting comments about things that he doesn't even own, rural land. I fail to see how his comment that it would be for a public safety matter when this is private land we're talking about, and the town doesn't have jurisdiction over our private land. It's our private land. Under the EP zoning, when we were dealing with that years back, the town in conversation told me that, and the Conservation Authority didn't want us so much as to pick fruit off the existing fruit trees, eat vegetables out of the ground. So what stops you then? Because basically you would own my trees and be expropriating them for nothing. Would you stop me from tapping? Would you stop me from eating the fruit off of it? I also have concerns that if you are scientifically deciding that you are the authority, then what prevents you from forcing me to spray my trees? There are people who live in this region who suffer from disorders, of autoimmune disorders that cause them to, and this is a growing problem scientifically out there, that we've got more and more people who react to environmental exposure, environmental illness as they call it. And so this is also a huge concern, because this goes away from even these landowners like myself that own our trees and have been excellent custodians. It's a huge concern to me what Mr. Coates just said, that yeah, we have class 1 and class 2 farmland. This is exceedingly valuable in this town. There's not even 10% of Canada has such farmland, and we're building on it. We're building food plants, and we're not growing food. So we are going to need more agricultural land if we are going to stay sustainable, as the United Nations likes to use the term, in the future, to feed ourselves, to feed our people. You need certain conditions, and I could go more into that later, and I will not do that now, just in the interest of time. our town is largely agricultural. And trees naturally regenerate with just even when you pull a tree, sometimes the roots. This bylaw, even if you were going to use this for developers or for some very specific reason, I would just take concern that it's not even acknowledging that, right now, somebody could have had trees growing for years, and maybe perhaps they've already had a plan where they plan to manage it in an efficient way. And you're saying that you have to wait till the tree grows to 20 centimeters DBH? That's, depending on the species, that's a huge number of years before you can cut things down. People have the right to heat. People have the right to... Are we at 5 minutes? If we are, I will be done. I would not like to go past my time. I would like to be respectful of council. And I would thank you very much for your time. There's much I'd like to say, so.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much. And who do we have? Could I have a mover? Thank you. Yeah.
Susan, a second.
Thank you. Not at this time. Perhaps at the end, perhaps this is an opportunity for our residents to speak with us. So the intent was that perhaps there would be time for questions at the end.
Through you, Madam Mayor, then I have a procedural question, because at previous deputations, we were allowed the opportunity to ask questions. So I would like to ask a question with regard to the presentation by the last deputant.
I will allow it, but I'm hoping we have people who have joined us tonight who want to give us information, and so I'm respecting their time as well. So go ahead.
Thank you very much, through you, Madam Mayor. My question is not directed towards you with an expectation that you will answer it, but it's actually a question with regard to your previous deputation, which I remember in September. And you brought up the question of drones and how the town was going to implement the bylaw and access private property to proceed with enforcing the bylaws. And I think that's a valid question, and I would like to ask staff how that is going to be addressed in the future, and if it's addressed in the bylaw, if there's going to be the use of drones and private property. Thank you.
Your microphone is off. Okay. Yes.
I'm not. Oh. Am I good? Okay, so sorry. So one of the reasons I brought that up is conservation authorities in this province have used drones. Conservation authorities were created originally to deal with, to basically minimize municipal costs, and they have no permitting and nor any licensing authority should they have in this province under common law, because that would violate it. So technically, we own the sky, we own our water. They shouldn't be coming over us, but they have in this province. So it concerns me. I realized they said at the end of the discussion as well that they might modify this as time goes on. So while I recognized I have read the bylaw, it's not in it currently, my concern is, would that get used in future? And they use aerial planning as it is for certain things with the town.
Through you, Madam Mayor, thank you. I was just going to thank the deputant for the question, and I was going to ask, through you, Madam Mayor, if our staff are taking into consideration that concern in their updating and ongoing consultations with about the draft bylaw.
Thank you. Our meeting tonight was to hear from you. And I would just advise that any questions to staff can be reserved at a later time, and we can certainly get back to you then. Thank you.
Because I haven't heard back from anyone, so thank you. Because I did bring questions last time to which I have not received answers, so thank you. I would look forward to that.
We're still in the learning stage of making sure we're checking the right boxes at the right time for everyone.
Thank you for allowing me to answer.
Thank you
for your question.
Could I have a mover to receive? Councillor Johns, all those in favor? And that's carried. Councillor Leahy, thank you. Okay. There are no presentations tonight as part of this evening, and that brings us to item F, which is committee recommendations. So we have item F first is a committee recommended to adopt the committee of the whole recommendation from the meeting held on October 8th, 2024. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Johns, Councillor Crothers, all those in favor? And that's carried. We have minutes from our past meeting to adopt the committee of the whole minutes from the meeting held on October 8th, 2024. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Crothers, Councillor Roy DeClemente, all those in favor? And that's carried. We are at Item 2, to adopt the council minutes from the following meetings: special meeting held on October 8th, 2024, regular meeting held on October 8th, 2024. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Foster, Councillor Roy DeClemente, all those in favor? And that's carried. And we have correspondence for consideration. Item L1, Parks, Recreation, Culture Report 2024-13, Draft Tree Protection Bylaw Update as follows. In relation to item L1, J. Gamble, J. Pitgen, J. Coates, L. Lewis, R. Robson, M. Michan, B. Everett, and D. Robson. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Roy DeClemente, and a seconder, please. Councillor.
We don't need a seconder, do we?
Thank you. Johns, thank you. All those in favor?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Do we have the opportunity to discuss or ask questions with regard to those items of correspondence that have been added to the agenda?
We could.
Yes.
We could. Are you asking to?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you very much, through you, Madam Mayor. I would like to note that there are so many letters here. There are 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 items of correspondence that have been submitted to the agenda, and that means that they are now in the public record, that anyone can have access to read those and understand them and follow up with them for the town. And I would like it to be noted that every single one of those 8 submissions of correspondence have concerns about the draft tree bylaw and are basically in opposition of the draft tree bylaw.
Thank you. Okay. We have, where were we? Yes.
Madam Mayor, I think you've got a motion for receipt, and I think you just need
Yes.
to call a vote before we proceed.
Thank you. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And we have correspondence from C. Ross dated October 15th, 2024, requesting an increase in full-time firefighters in East Gwillimbury. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Johns, Councillor Foster, all those in favor? And that's carried. We have correspondence from S. Heron dated October 15th, 2024 regarding increased firefighting resources in East Gwillimbury. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Crone, Councillor Roy DeClemente, all those in favor? And that's carried. We have I is a report, Parks and Recreation Culture Report PRC2024-13, Draft Tree Protection Bylaw Update. And I will now ask the General Manager of Parks, Recreation and Culture to provide an overview for us, please.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. The report prepared for Council provides an update on the draft tree protection bylaw. Given the input from our residents and our business owners, namely in the farming industry, staff are recommending at this time taking a pause with the report back to include additional communication and public consultation with our residents in the farming industry for further amendments to the draft tree protection bylaw for council consideration, including and not limited to amendment to access to private property and provisions that would support normal farming practice. Be happy to answer any questions related to the report before council.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Thank you very much,
Go
Madam
ahead.
Mayor, through you. So it states in this update that the report will come back to council at the council meeting on November 19th. So it leaves us less than a month. I'm curious, what date will the draft tree bylaw be completed, and how much time, once it's posted, I'm assuming it will be posted on our website, how much time will the public have to review it before it comes before us to vote again at council on November 19th?
Through you, Madam Mayor, typically reports are provided 1 week in advance to the council agenda item. Staff will endeavor to address any of the concerns that have been brought forward either through deputation or written correspondence with amendments to the bylaw for council's consideration.
Thank you very much. And one more question through you, Madam Mayor.
Head, please.
Very good. Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is within relation to previous issues and reports that came to us when we had petitions and when we had a large number of residents who wanted to continue the consultation process. I believe in the past we have contacted all of those residents who submitted letters or submitted petitions so that they would be updated and aware of this coming date of November the 19th. And so I'm wondering if staff is going to follow up and contact everyone who submitted letters as well as who have made deputations, and to make them aware of this deadline of the voting date on November 19th.
Thank you. Would we have the list, Ed? And I'm expecting that we would be going back to that list to let people know.
Through you, Madam Mayor, absolutely through the clerks, we could provide an inventory of those residents that provided input, either way, by way of deputation or written correspondence, and provide them with an update as far as the timing for the subsequent report back.
And what kind of timing would we give them, just to make sure that it's a reasonable time to make sure their calendars are clear?
Through you, Madam Mayor, at time of submission of the report to clerks, we could then inform them that that was a planned agenda item, and then further outreach would be provided to those individuals that provided their input.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I think that would be very helpful, because there were equal or more individuals who submitted correspondence to the town through the clerk's department, but chose not to have their correspondence put on the agenda for privacy reasons. And so I think that even though the individuals, those individuals should be included as well, because they represent as many or more than we see on our agenda tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Carruthers, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Thank you to staff for the amount of work that you've put into this. This has been in the works for a very long time. I've had many conversations and emails with people who are very supportive of this and are asking why we keep delaying on it, that we need to get it done to protect our canopy. Some of the people I've talked to who have called with concerns, a lot of their concerns are unfounded. They're misreading what the bylaw says. I think I heard something tonight about waiting until trees get to 20 centimeters. That's not part of the bylaw at all. So I think there's a real opportunity here for communications. I think there is a lot of miscommunication around this. There's absolutely some very legitimate concerns that people have and that need to be addressed in some form. But I would really like if we can try and address some of the misinformation. People are misreading some of the things in this. There are a lot of people talking about wanting to get rid of their dead trees. Well, dead trees are exempt from this. So I think if we can do a communication piece around this sooner rather than later to help, top, myths about the tree bylaw type thing, and try and make people feel a little less worried about it, because I think a lot of the concerns are unfounded. There's a lot of concerns that have been raised that are a legitimate concern, but the ones that are not actually in the bylaw, if we can put those fears to rest, I think that would be very helpful to our residents.
Thank you. Councillor LaHaye, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. Through you, Madam Mayor, one final question. So it has been referenced by a staff member that there will be continued public consultation between now and November the 19th, or now and between a week prior to November 19th. And I'm wondering if the staff member could share with the public what the process is, if they would like to speak with you, contact you, meet with you, as you've done with some of the other residents, if they would like to pursue that and have their questions answered with you. So my question through you, Madam Mayor, is what is the process that the public should follow to contact and communicate and provide input into the public consultation process over the next few weeks?
I'd like to know that as well, if we could have some understanding of when there might be another opportunity.
Through you, Madam Mayor, we've made best efforts for any correspondence that have been provided to staff to provide a response back. In addition to that, we'll be taking a look at the concerns on an individual basis and responding to those concerns by way of the report back to council.
I think that's the best way of making it happen, is individually speak to homeowners and residents who have concerns on an individual basis, because some people have 100 acres and it's all wooded, and other people have a half an acre and they want to keep it that way. So I think it's most important that individually people are able to get the answers that they need along the way. And I know it isn't going to happen overnight, that there will be some lead up time to it, but we'll make sure that the timing is such that people, if the first time doesn't work for you, then we'll make sure that there is another time that you can come out and speak to staff. Thank you, Mr. Karmazin. I'm needing a mover and a seconder. Be it resolved that Parks, Recreation, Culture Report PRC2024-13, dated October 22nd, 2024, entitled Draft Tree Protection Bylaw Update, be received, and that council directs staff to complete the public consultation process related to the tree draft protection bylaw and report back to council at the council meeting of November 19th, 2024.
Happy to move.
Thank you, Councillor Crone, Councillor Roy DeClemente. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. We will move to bylaws. There are no bylaws at this time. We have no other business that we are dealing with tonight. We have a confirming bylaw. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Crothers, Councillor Jones, thank you. Be it resolved that bylaw 2024-072, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council meeting held on October 22nd, 2024, be taken as read and acted and signed by the mayor and municipal clerk. All those in favor? And that is carried. Our next item is item M, and that is an adjournment. Be it resolved that the meeting of council adjourned at 6:39, moved by Councillor Foster, seconded by Councillor Roy DeClemente. All those in favor? And that's carried. And with that, we will adjourn our meeting. Thank you very much for coming out.